Hmm. Okay, so fine. Okay. Yes. So we saw mathematical operators and how to use them inside prints. Okay, so addition, subtraction, multiplication symbolized by asterisk, forward slash is for division, and then you have modulus operators, which is used for obtaining remainder. Then we saw, and remember one thing, maybe I did not discuss, or maybe yes I did, expressions and equations. Expressions of what? Symbols, that is operators. These are operators, okay, and separated by operands. What are operands? The numbers that we will be using together. For example, I have discussed, but briefly I'll go through that once again. Okay, fine. So in case you're writing 2 plus 2 plus 3, okay, and multiplied by 7, so this is an expression, a mathematical expression, okay, this is a mathematical expression formed, consisting of, you have, this is operand and plus and multiplication, these are operators. Fine. So and operands and operators together form the expression. So I think we had already discussed this in the first class, or maybe I think, or last class. Okay, so now coming to, so mathematical expressions can be put inside print statement to directly obtain the result of the expressions. Okay, and expressions are formed of operators and operands. Fine. Then we moved on to the concept of variables and their need. So what are variables? So variables are, you can say, memory locations, like we saw in the last class, memory locations which have got, just a minute. Okay, so variables are memory locations which are used to store values, and they have also labels associated with them, so that we can call them as and when, or we can access the values inside them as and when required in the program. Okay, so why do we use them? Why do we need them? We may need to store values so that we may use those values when needed later in the program. That's why we need to store those values. If you simply print the values and move ahead, then it will be very difficult for you to rather not possible for you to use it in the later part of the program, because printing it merely displays it on the screen, and then further you cannot use it later down the program. Okay, so the result of the expression is lost inside the print statements. In order to use them, reuse them later, we need to save them so that we can access the that memory location later and fetch values from them. Therefore we have this feature of variables in the programs. Okay, feature of variables in the program. So and now, like we saw, these variables are nothing but the named memory location, and where it is stored, the memory location is in your RAM. That is the main memory of your computer. I had drawn one chart in the last class. Hopefully you have gone through that. So RAM is the main memory location of the program, of your computer, and that is a volatile in nature. As soon as your power goes off, that memory will be erased. But whenever you are working, but whenever you are executing any program like running song, executing a Java program, watching a movie or a video, all such programs are stored in the RAM. If they are saved and not being used, then they are saved in the hard disk, okay, or your pen drive. So we had discussed about them also. So this now, so like we said, the memory locations are labeled or named, and these labels are known as identifiers of those memory locations. Okay, this identifier helps in fetching values from the variable the memory location as and when needed. But we have also seen, in order to create a variable in Java, we need to provide two information in advance. The first one is a label name for the label or a name for the memory location, and second is the type of value we are going to store there. For example, when we write int a, okay, or float b or double c or string d, so in this line what are you actually saying? In this line you are actually telling, like these lines, int a, float b, double c, string d. In these if you write these statements separately, of course, then that will mean you are asking computer to reserve a memory location which will have a label associated with it, and that label will be a, okay, and you are promising computer that you are only going to store values of integer type in it. Okay, similarly if you write float b, that will mean you want to create a variable which will be called b, okay, or which will be identified by b, and you are going to store only float value in that. Similarly double c and string d, if you write a string d, that means you are reserving an available memory location which will be identified by d, and you are telling computer that you are going to only store values of string type. What are string types? That are within double quotes, okay, or the messages that we were referring to earlier. Okay, so this way you can reserve memory or you can create variables in your computer. And these statements, when you are creating variables using these statements, those statements are known as variable declarations, okay, or declaration statements. Further, once you have created a variable, then you can assign values to it. How do you assign values to it? Let's say you have created int a, that means you have reserved a memory location, that is you have created a variable having the name a, and you have also told computer in advance that you are only going to store integer in it. So now later down in the program you can write a is equals to 2. That means computer, from the vast number of boxes or the memory locations which are available in its RAM, it will search for a location having this label or the tag a, okay, and once it finds that location having stamped or identified by a, okay, then there it is going to go and put this value 2, which is of integer type, inside it. Okay, so the type of value that you are specifying is known as data type. So generally the most commonly used data types that we are going to encounter is int for integer, float and double for containing decimal values, and then you have strings for containing you can say alphanumeric sequences which are enclosed within double quotes. Alphanumeric sequences means any sentence made of alphabets and numbers both. So such messages can be enclosed within double quotes and can be put in the memory location which has been declared to contain only string type. Okay, so in such like hello, if you want to put, so you can write d is equals to hello. Similarly, all the decimal values containing decimal points can either be put in float and double. Now you may think of if we are having if both double and float are capable of storing decimal points, then why do we have two types? Okay, why not only use one, and what was the need of the second type? Okay, so one line discussion I'll have on them. You can just understand. I know most of you may be knowing this. So difference between double and float types. Okay. So difference, what is the difference? Difference is in precision. Okay. Just a minute. So difference is in precision. So is in precision. What do we mean by differences in precision? So you may think something like, let's say if there is a float value and there you are storing 2.3. Similarly, there is a double value. Let's say it is again containing 2.3. So once you declare a variable of float type and another variable of double type, and which are containing, both of them are containing 2.3, so you will, when you are printing it using system.out.print both the values, let's say you write, for example, float x is equals to 2.3. Okay, and then you write in your program float y is equals to 27, and then you try to print. Okay, system dot, let's say, no, we'll keep it same, 2.3 only. Okay, and then you write, try to print system.out.print ln, and you print x, and the next line also same thing, and then you print y. You will see, when you see the output, this will display something like 2.3. However, this will display something like 2.3000000 to, I think, 7 or 10 decimal places. I don't remember exactly. So what does it mean? The accuracy to which both float and double values can represent differ. That means float values can contain decimal numbers having decimal points to a good to, you can say, rather double values represent decimal numbers, numbers having decimal points to a greater precision. Greater precision means to more number of decimal points, you can say, more digits after the decimal point, so it will be more correct. Okay, so it will be some sort of rounded off version of float, will be some sort of rounded off version of double. So if you are trying to look into the degree of correctness or degree of precision, double trumps float, that is, double is ahead of float. So more number of decimal places can be represented using double value. So in case you are using your calculation is very you need to have a very accurate, more accurate calculation. Let's say for 5 decimal places or 7 decimal places correct answer you need, or 10 decimal places correct answer you need, then you will use double for storing decimal points. And if you are not bothered, okay, fine, even rounded off value will do, and 2.3 or 2.5 will do, I don't need 2.37986 like that. You can say degree of precision is does not matter for your case. Only a rough you can say a representation of decimal values or answer will be fine for you. Then you can use float. But if you need more decimal places in your answer, then you should use double. For our case in the programming, we are mostly going to use float. Why? We can use double also, of course, not a problem. But a good program is a program which is consuming least space. So it is correct that double will give you answer to a better extent in terms of number of decimal places, but at the cost of more memory consumption. Okay, so let's say if one float value x, let's say, uses 4 boxes in the memory. Okay, that means 1, 2, 3, 4, which are boxes, like we had discussed in the last class, are known as bytes. Okay, so 4 bytes, let's say if they are using, then for storing the same number, if you are using, oh, I made a mistake here, I wanted to write double here. Okay, to store the same value, if you are using the double data type, okay, for storing the same value, that will consume 8 bytes or 8 blocks of memory. Okay, so that is why it is called double. Double means double the space required by float values, variables of float types. Okay, so it will contain double the memory, it will consume double the memory location for storing the same value. So until and unless you really need answers correct to 5, 7, 10 decimal places, and those the degree of precision matters for your program, which should not matter at this stage, at the learning stage. Okay, so till the time you are not going to use double, because your program will consume more space. So sake of efficiency and sake of less consumption of memory spaces, we are only going to use floating types for representing decimal numbers. So this concept of why do we have two different types of double and float, okay, for creating variables which can store decimal numbers, numbers with decimal points. Is this concept clear? Let me know. Okay, so Aishwarya, Adya, Shrestha, good, Bharati, and others. So seems you are clear now why we are having two different data types for storing same decimal numbers. Okay, so we'll get back to our discussion. And yes, one more thing, the term that we were seeing, the line where you are specifying that you want to reserve a memory location having the label and the data type, that is called variable declaration. Just a minute. The line where you are specifying what values, what type of value you are going to store and what will be the name of a variable, that is known as variable declaration. However, after that, when you are specifying or when you are storing the actual values in that memory location for the first time, we had discussed in the last class, that line is known as initialization or the variable initialization. That means initializing means to give the initial or the starting value. So whenever you are going to put the values for the first time in the memory location using its identifier or the name, you will say that you have just initialized your variable or you have given the initial values or the starting values to your variable, right? So that step, so when you are using int a, you will say you have declared a variable. When you are writing a is equals to 2, that is you are putting the value 2 inside the variable which you have just declared, you will say that you have initialized or you have given the first value or the starting value to your variable. So that step is known as variable initialization. However, like we discussed here in this concept, both the steps can be done in one line when you know what value is to be put. So if you are writing float x is equals to 2.3, here you can say, here you can see you are both declaring and you are initializing. Both declaration and initialization is happening in a single statement. So that is also possible when you know what values you have to put. We generally use this approach when we have hard-coded values and we don't need to ask values from the user what value has to be put in your variable. Okay, so in that case, when fixed values, you know that this value will only go inside it, then that hard-coded values can be put inside it at the declaration statement only. So this uses both this approach uses mix of declaration and initialization. So that is another way, but this should be used rarely, sparingly, only when you know if you are declaring a variable, what value should go inside it. Okay, initialization, okay, in a single line. So that is also possible. Fine. So this thing we had seen in the last class, that covers your concept of variable and how to declare it and how to give the first values to it, that is declaration and initialization. Then we moved ahead and saw how to perform the addition of two numbers. Okay, a basic program of addition of two numbers. Here what we did, and storing the result in the third number and then third variable and then displaying it. So because we are saying we need to add two numbers, we definitely need to have two variables. Let's say we want to perform the addition of two integer values. So we will create two integer variables named as x and y, or identified by x and y, and data type we have specified integer. Third one we are using in order to store the value of their addition. Okay, and because two integers are used, so the sum will also be an integer. So therefore we created three variables, two for storing the values and a third one for storing the result. Okay, so once this declaration, we have declared three integer types of variables. Then we are initializing the two variables which will be containing our numbers with the values. So x is initialized to 2, y is initialized to 3, and then in z we computed the sum and then we stored it to z. Remember, expression is not saved in the variable location, result of the expression is saved. Okay, so z will contain sum of x. What is x? Value of x will be fetched and this will replace x. 2, y will be the value of y, a value contained in y will be fetched and this will be replaced here after plus, and then the resulting expression will become 2 plus 3. Sum will be calculated as 5 and then this 5 will be stored in the memory location identified by z, and then you are displaying the z. Now because we just saw expression is not saved in the memory location but the result of the value, okay, result of the or the addition of the two values, therefore even if you make change in x, that won't have any effect whatsoever in the memory location z, because z is containing 5 and not x plus y, okay, the result of x plus y. So therefore even if you are changing x, you have never changed z, therefore we saw that in the program z will still show 5 but x will become 20. Okay, now this was a very simple program of adding two numbers, okay, using hard-coded values. But this program has some limitations like we saw in the last class. What were the limitations? The limitations were that this program will again and again, if you are going to execute it, it is always going to perform the sum of 2 and 3 only. So after certain number of executions, you may lose interest and your enthusiasm. Okay, so that is again a problem with this program. So what is more desirable is to have a program which will give you generic result. What do we mean by generic result? Results which are in general. Like it should ask for you, give me two numbers. When the user is executing it, and every time you give two new numbers, it will give you the new sum. Okay, so that is more desirable. So you may get bored using this program. So how did we improve it? So we improved upon it by asking from the user at the time of execution or at the run time, you tell me what are those two numbers, and then I'll give you the result of the addition of those two numbers that you have provided. Okay, so the steps are same. Like we said, we had discussed, whenever you need to ask values from outside, that is from the user, in that case, two additional lines appear in your template. Of course, we will learn about the meaning of this, but later on. So what are those two additional lines that need to be added in your default template? Just before the public class, your file name or the class name, you will add this line, import java.util.scanner. In some places, you will see in your books maybe, instead of scanner, they are also using star. That will also work. So even if you write something like this, import java.util.star, that will also work. Okay, so even if you write java.util.star or java.util.scanner, both cases you will get your answers. Okay, so but what is more preferable from the efficiency point of view? The more preferable approach is java.util.scanner. This line consumes more space. Okay, why it consumes more space we will understand when we will see the meaning of this later on, when we, later after, let's say, some classes. So therefore we should use this line. This is more preferable and desirable. So now we added two more lines when in case we need to ask values from outside to our general template. One is this line, import just before the class name, and another is this line, scanner in is equals to new scanner system.in. Okay, which was missing here. So again, like I said, these two lines are related, so we'll not try to explore their meanings right now. Okay, so once you have added these two lines, your program becomes capable of accepting values from outside. So what, we need to, the program is, the aim is to make this program generic in nature. So what we did in the last class, just like this, for creating a generic program, because you need to ask two values from outside, so those two values should be accepted and must be saved in some memory location. So again you need two variables. Okay, and third variable will again be required to compute the sum and store it in that. So we will again create three variables. Okay, so we have created three variables again. Then we need to ask values from the user at the time of execution, so that the values that user gets stored in that variable identified by X, or the memory location identified by X. Here we were giving hard-coded values, but we need to make program more general or generic in nature. So therefore we will give a chance to the user to give the values here. So first X will be asked for. Okay, in order to ask values from outside, you are going to write this line. X is equals to, instead of 2, you will say X is equals to, hey user, you give me the value. So in order to write that, you are going to write whatever you have written here in. If you are writing X, let's say A here, you will write A dot next int. If you are writing ABC here, instead of in, you will write ABC dot next int. So whatever you have used here, the same thing you will write, that thing dot next int. If you want to store integer values, you cannot do like that. You will store integer value right here int, and then you specify here in dot next float. No, because you promised you are going to store integer, so it is required that you write next int and not next float or next double. You will write next float or next double only if you have declared it either float or of double type. Depending on that, you will change this, else you are not going to change. Of course, we will be seeing some more programs today on that. Okay, so these things I am just recapping from the last class only. So here you will ask value from the user in the first variable X, then you will ask for another values in the second variable X. You will see, before asking for the values in the variables, we are using print statement. Why? Last class we saw, if you directly execute it without writing the print statement, there will be no problem, but the person who is executing the code may get confused. Why the person may get confused? Because your screen will just pause and it will start blinking. Okay, so it's better to inform users what to provide, what value you require, so you leave it as a message. Okay, so let's say I'll run code 10 again, so that if you have forgotten, you may understand. So like you can see, if you do not write print statement before it, as symbolized here, then your screen will simply be blinking and nothing will be there. So user may get confused if the user has not seen your code. So user will get confused what to do now. Okay, so in order to be more informative, you should, just before accepting values, you should use print statements to specify what exactly is required there. Okay, let's say I give a value 12 and press enter. Then before, you can see once the value 12 goes inside it, next line is executed which says please enter another value. Then it goes to the next line and it asks for the user to input one integer value, and then that value will be saved in the variable location identified by, or the memory location identified by y. So same way, when you are giving 45, let's say, you press enter, you will get the answer like the sum of the numbers provided above is, and then you are printing z. Z is containing the result of the expression x plus y. So therefore first the sum of the numbers appeared. We are using two separate prints here, but only in one line it is displaying y, because this is print ln, this is print and this is print ln. So after printing this, line won't be changed, and whatever next print will be printing will be continued here only. So you can see after is 57 is displayed, and then line is changed because next line is print ln. Okay, so till here we had discussed. Okay, so in these two programs that we had discussed last class, so are we clear up to this stage? Let me know so that I can move ahead with the topics for today. Okay, so fine. So most of you seem to be, or rather all of you seem to be comfortable with this. Okay, so now we'll start with the today's topic. So today's topic, we are just going to start with some practice programs for accepting user inputs. Okay, and then these programs, last class we only use integer types. Today we will be seeing some float and double type programs also. Okay, wherein we will be creating variables of float and double type also. Not double. Double is only desirable when I said you need answers correct to more decimal places, and because it consumes more space, we'll only be using float. So let us see few more programs. Okay. So what is the aim of this program? A very simple program. Just let me decrease the zoom level. Fine. So this what is the objective of this program? The objective of this program is to input a number, that is to ask for a number from the user and print it back after adding 50 to it. Very simple program. So how we can do? Because we have to ask for a number at the runtime, so external input is required from the user. In that case, we are going to use our template having these additional two lines, import and next. See, in the last program we use in. Here we are using sc. So whenever I am going to ask for the values, I am going to use sc and not int. Okay, so whatever you are asking, writing here, that should be written at the time of asking from the value from the user. So in this program, we require to ask for one number from the user, because the program does not say what type of number. So we will try to make our program general always. So we will allow the person to write any type of number, even decimal numbers. So therefore we are going to write, declare it of float type. We could have used double also, but like we discussed, it would have represented, it would have consumed more memory. So we are going to use float here. Fine. So let's say you are you have declared using this declarative statement that you are going to use create only one variable which will be identified by num. Okay, num for number. See, it's always a good practice, rather a very good practice to have identifier names or the variable names suggesting for what purpose that variable is being declared, because you are going to store a number inside it. So as a practice, though it is not required, you can use anything x, y, z, whatever you want, but as a good program practice, and as the trend goes, which is followed all over the world, the good programmers make it a habit to give relevant names to your variables. Okay, so always try to come up with the relevant names. Okay, in short. So because I have to store a number, I gave it a name num. Okay, I could have used anything, but because we are trying to give relevant name, so we will be using num. So here in the declarative statement, I have said I need one variable to be created. Okay, and that variable will be called num, and I am promising that I'll be only storing floating type values. Float type values means numbers with decimal points. Okay, so once you are done, this number is capable of storing in addition to integer numbers also the numbers with decimal points. See, integer numbers are also numbers with decimal points, because if you write 2, that means 2.0. So don't confuse ki even if you write 2 here, it won't accept, because 2 is 2 means 2.0 also, therefore 2 will also go inside this. Okay, so you have written ki this declarative statement ki you are going to store one integer floating type value, that is the number with decimal point, in a variable which you are requesting for creation and will be having the name num. So you have declared, this is a declarative statement or variable declaration. Now once you have declared or created a variable, the time comes for initializing it, that is giving it the value. Now first value. So if you are initializing num or giving the starting value to num, that value should be asked as input from the user. Okay, so you are going to ask as the input from the user. So in case of integer, you had written in.nextInt. This line means, hey user, you provide me one value and that value I will put in the variable. So similarly, you are asking here, hey user, give me one value which can be of floating type, and that once you provide, I will store it in the variable or a memory location identified by num. Okay, so here because you are using float, you will use here next float and not next int. So here if you are using int, then only use next int. Here if you are using float, so we are using float, so we will be providing here next float. So once the program reaches this line, it will ask for the value from the user. The user gives any value, it will go inside it. Now once you contain the value, the aim of the program is to print it back after adding 50 to it. So in the print you can write num plus 50. Okay, now let us run this program. So we will write, let's say 11. If there is no error after compilation, Java C won't give any error. So you will write Java code 11. Please enter a number. It says, let's say I enter 2.3 and I press enter. So in this code, you can see you have printed it back after adding 50 to it. So because we added number, our number was 2, so it added 50, it became 52.3. Okay, let's see how it will look if we use double here. Like I said, the double will include more decimal places. So let's change it to double. Okay. Fine, it compiled successfully, and then I'll run the program. So enter a value. Let's say I write 4.59. Let us see. So it gives 54.9. So at times if you give, let's say if you give 2.3, 52.3. So internally, if you see here, you won't see much of the difference. Okay, it will appear that it both work the same way. But the thing is, if your number is containing, let's say 5, 7 or 10 decimal places, you will see floating type values giving some let's say answers which are not that correct. But this will happen, this program, okay, this program may accept numbers like 5, 6, 7, 9, as many decimal numbers you give, you will see it will be handling both, it will be handling this type. Okay, so in case of float, you will see that the answer won't be correct to these many decimal places. It may round off till 7 decimal places. That may happen in the case of float. Okay, so because double values are capable of storing more decimal places and giving answers correct to that many decimal places, therefore whenever you require precision to these many decimal places or more number of decimal places, okay, in that case only you are going to use double. For most of our purpose we are only going to use float. So no worries, for now we can make a habit of using float only. Okay, so I am keeping this as double, but in your case when you are programming, try to always, whenever you are using any numbers with decimal point, so you can use float also, or rather you should use float only, because it will consume less space. Okay, now, so this was a pretty simple program. So the aim of the program was to ask for a number. So I made it a generic type. User may be able to input even decimal numbers, and then I am accepting value from the user. Because I have taken double here, so I have changed it to next double, so that the values that can be entered will be treated as a double type and will be stored in the memory location num. You have added 50 to it, and then you have displayed. So like we saw, both double and float will work, but we will prefer float as it consumes less space. Okay, it's just for the sake of showing I have taken double here, so that you know ki both will work. Fine. In next code, now this is a very simple program. It's another type, very simple statement. The program says you have to ask for the cost of one shirt. Let's say you are going to purchase a few shirts from the market. Okay, so let's say you are asking for, you have to ask from the user the cost of one shirt, and how many, and also the second value that you need to know from the user is how many shirts you have purchased. Okay, that is, I am saying n number of shirts, and your program should display what is the total cost of all the shirts. Let's say cost of one shirt is 500 rupees and user has purchased 10 shirts, then your program should display the total price of 10 shirts is 500 into 10, that is equals to 5000 rupees. Okay, so this program will ask for two user inputs. Okay, first one is your the cost of one shirt and number of shirts. So therefore we will be using, and also you have to print the total price of those many shirts. So because I need to ask from the user what is the number of shirt that you have purchased, so I'll create one variable for the number of shirt. As we know, the number of shirt cannot be in decimal points. Like nobody will prefer to buy 2.5 shirts. Okay, either you will buy 2 shirt or 3 shirt or 10 shirt. Decimal, if you say ki I need fractional shirt, then it's a problem. Okay, so logically, because the number of shirts should be an integer value, therefore I am creating a variable of integer type which can accept the number of shirts and having the number in integers. Okay, yes, size, no, size can vary of course, but the count will be 1, 2 and 3 only, na? Okay, fine. So number of shirts is n. So I am creating a variable named as n and having the data type int, because number of shirts will always be integer, and that memory location named as n will be containing whatever the user will be providing for the number of shirts. Then also you have to ask, hey user, what was the cost of one shirt, that each shirt that you purchased. Let's say all the shirts cost the same. Okay, so I am asking, so for that purpose also I need to ask from the user what was the cost of one shirt. Therefore we need one more variable, okay, which will store the cost of each shirt. Okay, assuming that all the shirts cost the same. So now I am like we saw, we should always take a relevant name. I created a variable. I am creating a variable here, and I am giving it a name as cost1. So that memory location will be known as cost1. Okay, which that will be reserved in this line. And also I am saying, because we know that the cost can be in decimal points also. A shirt may cost, let's say, 3000.50, that is 3000 rupees and 50 paise. So that we should technically take it as a floating value, so that decimal numbers can also be handled. So I am declaring a variable having a name here, cost1. That memory location will be known as cost1, and I am promising that I am rather specifying that that memory location can also contain numbers with decimal points. So I have taken float. You can take double also, but for the sake of efficiency I am taking float. Now you need to create one more variable. Why? Because we need to compute the total cost of n shirts at the cost this much rupees for each shirt. So in order to store that result, you need to create one more variable. So I have created another variable known as the total price. See, I have again taken a relevant name. So why are we taking float here? Let's say if user gives let's say 100.50 and user has purchased 2 shirts, okay, or 3 shirts, then the answer will come in float. Okay, because one of the values is float, so answer will become float. So therefore logically we should take total price can be in decimals also, because our price of one shirt can also be in decimal. Therefore the total price can also be in decimal. So therefore the total price variable where we will be calculating the cost of all the shirts, total price of all the shirts, we are taking it as a float type. Once we are done with that, we will ask one by one, once we have created variables, hey user, please enter the number of shirts that you wish to buy, and in the next line after leaving the message, I'll ask user to input an integer value in the variable n. So user will see the message, please enter the number of shirts, okay, and then whatever value user will be entering, that will be going inside n. So here in n, one integer value user will provide. Next you are going to ask for the cost of one shirt, okay, and that is because it is float, so you have written sc dot next float, because here you have taken sc, so you are writing sc here, and because here you have written float, therefore you will write next float here. Okay, here you wrote int, so you wrote next int here. So cost one should have a floating value, so you are asking from the user the cost of one value which can be of floating type. So you have written next float value once user gives will go into cost one. Once you have both the values initialized, both the variables n and the cost one initialized from the user, then you will calculate the total price. And what will be the total price of the shirt? Number of shirts into price of each shirt. And that result, see, that variable location won't contain this expression, but the result of this expression. So first n will be substituted, and then cost one will be substituted. Then asterisk stands for multiplication. So let's say you give 10 and you give here 200.5 or 2000.5. So n, that is 10 multiplied by 200.5. The result will be computed. That result will be saved in the memory location identified or named as our total variable or total price. That is the variable total price will contain the final result, and then you are displaying in a presentable manner using concatenation. How? You will write the total price of, then you will write plus, you will give n, because n is not containing quotes here, so n will be accepted from here. This variable value will be substituted here. If you write it within quotes, then message n will be displayed, and later you will see on the screen. But if you are writing without quotes, then the value of this very memory location will be fetched, and this will be replaced here. That will be concatenated with the sum or the total price of n. Let's say user has given 10, so it will appear 10 here. Then further you are concatenating shirts is equals to, and then the total price. We'll run the program, then you will see how this will look. Okay, so let us observe. So this program is 12, code 12. I'll compile code 12. Okay, and then we will run code 12. So it's asking for, please enter the number of shirts. Let's say I purchase 5 shirts. What's the cost of one shirt? Let's say I give 3037.50 75. Okay, 3037 rupees 75 paise, and you print enter. Output is the total price of 5 shirts is this much. Okay, so how did we use? You see the last line for printing. You are concatenating the total price of. Then you have written n without quotes, so it won't be taken as message, but it will be taken as a variable name. So n will be fetched. So n you entered as 5. So that 5 was concatenated with the earlier part. So it became this statement. Further on, you concatenated shirts is equals to. Then you can see shirts is equals to this much. Concatenated statement was formed, and then further on, you said total price. Because total price is not within double quotes, therefore it will be taken as a memory location or the name of a variable. So the whatever value was computed here was saved in this total price. That from that memory location, from the memory location named as total price, the value will be fetched and will be replaced here, and then will be concatenated with the rest of the part. So you will see the result, what was computed, appearing as one single message or string. Okay, so just take let's say 15-20 seconds, analyze it with a very clear mind, and let me know, is this step-by-step approach clear to all? Take 15 to 20 seconds. Okay, so let me know in case of doubt. I'll repeat again. Okay, so okay, so all of you seem to be clear till this point. See, gradually we are raising our level, and you will be surprised in a matter of, let's say, another 5-10 days or 4-5 classes, you will be handling some very good programs. Okay, so we are taking baby steps, but yes, soon we are going to, you can say, take giant steps. We will start. Okay, so now in the sequence of our programming, we'll go ahead and we'll see one more program. Okay, so I hope, just a minute. I hope all of you are familiar with the concept of simple interest. Okay, so what is the, okay, so let me know if you are comfortable with the concept of simple interest. Yes. So how do you calculate simple interest? What are the values you need for the simple interest in order to find the simple interest? What are the main things? There are 3 major things that you need in order to find the simple interest. Principal. See, Jayesh, that principal will be your school principal. Okay, so spelling is PLE. But yes, I got, you're right. So principal, rate and time. Good. So fine. And now what is the formula? The formula that computes the simple interest is, the formula that computes the simple interest will be, no, that's okay. I know, even I used to confuse till very late. PRT by 100. Yes, Shreya, correct. So that is principal multiplied by rate, multiplied by multiplied by time, and multiplied by rate, and then the whole result divided by 100 gives you the value of simple interest. Okay, so this very simple program we are going to quickly have a look. Okay, fine. So because we are going to accept from the user, what 3 values we need to ask from the user? Principal, rate and time. So therefore we need 3 variables for them, and see, all of them can be in decimal points. Rate can be 7.5%, principal can be 1000 rupees 50 paise, even time can be 4.5 years, right? So all of them can be in the you can say decimal notations. So therefore we are going to use floating values, or we are going to declare the three variables as a float type. Okay, so we will create first three variables of floating type, and fourth variable si we will be creating, which will be computing the simple interest and will be storing the result. So therefore we are creating four variables, three for taking input and one for storing our output, which will be the simple interest. Okay, and what are the inputs? Principal, rate and time. Okay, so you got to know why float, because each one of them individually may or may not be in the terms of floating values. Fine. So now once you have declared, then we are going to initialize or ask from the user to provide value of principal, rate and time in the three created variable created above. So I'll ask from the user, and like we have seen before asking, we should print message to what values you want, what message you want to leave for the user, so that the user understands what value you have to input. So you will write, please enter principal. So next line, the value that you are asking for is a floating value, because you have created a floating type variable. So next float you are using, and then that will be saved in P. Next you are leaving a message, please enter the rate, and then you are again asking for a floating type value from the user, and that you are storing in R. And then you are leaving a message, please enter time. Then you are asking from the user, please enter a value, and that will go inside T. Finally, you have to find as per the formula given. See, you cannot write PRT, because PRT humans understand, but for computers you will have to mention multiplication sign. Okay, and first of all the product is required, therefore I have grouped them. Ki first calculate these things. You know BODMAS, when you put brackets, the result of that is calculated first. So I will calculate PRT, will group it so that the result of PRT is obtained first. Okay, of this expression is obtained first, and then that result is divided by 100 to obtain the final result, and then that final result is saved in SI. So observe how grouping has been done. And then remember, in BODMAS, in mathematics, you may have many types of brackets. What I mean to say is, okay, how will computer know if the time is in months or years? See, we are assuming, correct, Shweta, you are right. We are assuming here, you may leave a message to the users, please enter time in years. Okay, so of course I should have written here in years, because I was assuming that the time is in years. Okay, so therefore I have written, please enter the time in years, so that now the message will be displayed and user will come to know. Okay, fine. So what I mean is, I was displaying in mathematics, mathematical expressions in day-to-day life, you will see there are many types of brackets used in BODMAS. Okay, they may be simple brackets, they may be curly brackets, they may be box brackets, they may be bar brackets. So you can have expressions like 2 plus, okay, 3 into 5 divided by 6, or let's say 5. You can have some expressions. Okay, so this is another type of bracket, this is another type of bracket. But in computer you have only one type of bracket, that is this one. Others are not used. So the same expression in computer you will write using the same bracket again and again. Okay, so because computer uses only this round brackets only for all the groupings. So now you will say how to decide which one will be preferred first. Well, the one that is the bracket that is contained inside innermost bracket will be solved first. This is how computer performs. So what is the innermost set of brackets? Is this the innermost set of brackets? No, the innermost set of brackets is this. Okay, so computer will compute the innermost set of brackets first. Okay, I'll write computes innermost brackets first, and they only use which type of bracket? This round brackets. Okay. Fine. So we'll get back to our program now. So because we know कि PRT should be technically multiplied first and then that result should be divided by 100. Therefore, we using the brackets we have grouped P asterisk R asterisk T, and as we know asterisk or the star symbol stands for multiplication. So first the now like I said SI won't be containing this expression but the result of this expression. So how the result will be computed? Value from the memory location identified by P or the variable P will be fetched and replaced in place of P. Similarly, the value from the variable R will be fetched and replaced at place of R, and then value from T will be fetched and replaced at place of T. Then this value will be computed first because of the grouping that we have applied using brackets. Then whatever the result is obtained, that result will be substituted in place of this entire expression, and then that result will be divided by 100. Then a final value will be arrived at, and then that final value will be put inside the memory location or saved inside the memory location or the variable identified by SI or named as SI. Okay, and then once you have calculated the result, you will display the simple interest is equals to plus SI. So what will this plus do? Will concatenate the value of SI with this message, and so it will be output will be more presentable. Let us execute this program of simple interest and then see the result. Okay, this program is code 13. Because there was no error, so compiled successfully, class file was created, and then Java will pick up code 13 class file automatically. I press enter. So now it's asking for please enter the principal. Let's say I enter principal as 1000 rupees. Now it's asking for please enter the rate. Let's say I enter rate as 7.5. Now it is asking me please enter the time in years. Now because I left the message in years, user will understand, okay, I have to give answer in years. Fine. Let's say user gives 5 years. Now you may say that sir you are entering an integer value 5, but you have asked here for in place of time floating values. How will it accept? Will it not throw error? No, because like I said, integers are also floating values. 5 is also 5.0, so it will have no problem. Okay, so even if I write only 5, it will automatically make it as 5.0 and then it will save it there. Okay, so moment I press enter, what should happen? The moment I press enter, this this time value will go into T. Result of SI will be calculated as per this expression, and then that result will be saved in SI, and finally the result will be displayed, and this sort of message, the result simple interest is equals to the value, will be displayed. So let us see here. Now you can see 375 rupees. Of course, if every year you are charging at the rate of 7.5, then you will see for 5 years for 1000 rupees, that will amount to, the simple interest will amount to 375 rupees. Okay. Because it is a floating type, it is displaying 375.0. If had it been integer type, it would have only displayed 375. Okay. So just have a look at this program, let's say for another 20 seconds, and then let me know. Yeah, correct. Yeah, there, you were right. So just have a look at this program for another 20 seconds, analyze it with a cool mind, and let me know if we are good here. Okay, fine. Just let me know if we are clear. Okay, Jayesh, clear. It's all good. Okay, fine. Pranali, all of you seem to be good with that. Pradipta. Okay, fine. So now we'll proceed for one last programming example of our day, and then possibly one very small concept further. So no, it's a very interesting program. Hopefully you have done it. If not done, we'll see again. Next program is that program for interchanging the values of two variables. Okay, let's say there are two variables, num1 named as num1 and num2, and I'll explain it on whiteboard. Let's say you have two variables. The program aim of or objective of the program is interchanging the values of two variables. Okay, let's say first variable is, I define two variables, number one, and like we said we should take always the relevant name. So I have taken two variables. Fine. Now let's say the first variable is containing an integer value, that is first variable identified by name num1 is containing an integer value 1, and second variable identified by, or memory location identified by num2 is containing a value 2. Okay. Now I want to do something so that when now if you print here system.out.println, I'll write in short SOPLN, system.out.println. You should not write in computer, I'm just writing in rough, and you print num1 here, and then you use num2 here. Okay, so what will be the output? It will go and check for num1. Num1 is memory location will be having 1, so output will be, first line will be 1, and then next line is num2. Num2 is containing 2, so it will print 2. Now I want to do something so that, let's say I'll write some piece of code here, and that piece of code, after writing that piece of code, if I print num1 and num2, the values of num2 should go in 1 and value of num1 should come in num2. That is, they mutually interchange their values. And how it will happen? I'll write some lines of code. Okay, we'll just figure it out what those lines of code will be. And then when I print num1, num1 will display 2 and num2 will display 1. That is, the value of num1 will come to num2 and the value of num2 will come to num1. So just let me know one thing. If you do something like num1 is equals to num2 here in the place where you have written this brackets, okay, num1 is equals to num2 and num2 is equals to num1. Will this solve our problem? Just analyze for 5-10 seconds and let me know. Okay. Maybe. Shweta says maybe. How many of you think it will happen? It will work? It may happen. Don't go by my tone. At times I may try to confuse. So Shweta believes yes. How many of you believes yes it will work? And how many of you? Okay. So Nazim, Shwarya, all of you says yes. Okay, fine. So what I'll do is it will. Okay, fine. So because all of you are convinced, I'll immediately write a code and we'll check it off and verify, and hopefully it should work. Fine. So I'll just write a new program for you guys. Very fast. Okay, interchanging two variables by simply interchanging their values. Their values. Okay, because I don't need user input, I'm just testing, so I'll give hard coded values here. I'll create two variables, num1 and num2. In num1 I'll give, let's say 2. In num2 I'll give 3. Okay, I'll do something like this here, the values before interchanging. I'll print the values before interchanging, and then I'll do num1 is equals to num2 and num2 is equals to num1, and then I'll print the values after interchanging. Okay, I'll save it. I'll give it a name, and name should be same as the name of class 16.java. Okay, I'll change it to 16. Now let us see. So as per this program, when you execute it, you will see values before interchanging will be, of course, when you have assigned num1 is equals to 2 and num2 is equals to 3. So this should print values before interchanging, num1 will contain 2 and num2 will contain 3. After interchanging, it should display num1 is equals to 3 and num2 is equals to or num1 is equals to 3 and num2 is equals to 2, right? So now let us execute this program. Okay, I'll just clear the screen. Fine. I'll write Java C code 16.java. There was no error. Now, hopefully, we are all correct. Let us see. Now, we may be surprised what just happened. Right, seems we are not correct. Because we can see here, values before interchanging were 2 and 3. After interchanging, when we wrote num1 is equals to num2 and num2 is equals to num1, okay, you will see the values for both the variables becoming 3. What went wrong? So this is one of the concept that initially you face when you are when you have started with the concept of variables. However, if you would have gone to the basic definition of variable, you would have understood why the values did not get interchanged and why 3 appeared in both. So what is the basic definition of variable? I will go using that. Let us see. That's very interesting. See what happened. I'll go step by step. Here I wrote here I wrote num1 is equals to 1. So that means as per this line, num1 is equals to 1 when you are writing after int num1, a variable location known as num1, variable location labeled as num1 will be provided with value 1 after the first two lines. Now when you reach the third line, the variable location, that what is a variable location? A location in the memory, okay, known as num2 or identified by or labeled as num2 will store the value or save the value 2. We are done till that point. Now let us see. Now here in this portion we wrote, and when you display it, the 1 and 2 will get displayed because here the 1 and 2 are saved. After interchanging, as per our this key, this should work in this place. What would have happened? You are writing in num1 store the value of num2. So here num2 value from the num2 will be fetched. Okay. So internally this line will change as num1 is equals to value from the memory location num2 will be fetched, and that will go here. Okay. So this will num1 will become 2. Okay. So this will be, after this line, this will become, this original value will be erased and value from the num2 will be fetched and that will be put here 2. Correct? Now next line you are saying in num2, okay, that is in the memory location num2, fetch the content from num1. What is the content of num1? The num1 content you had just changed before that line, that is 2. Fetch the value from num1 and put it in 2. So if you see here, if you are writing num2, what was the latest value of num1? Num1 was still containing 2 because just before that you copied from num2 and you put it there. So now it is containing 2. So it will bring 2, whatever is the earlier, though again earlier was 2, it will erase that and write 2 again. So after these two lines you will see the content of both becoming 2. Okay, because in our case if you see, we put initially num1 as let's say 2 and num2 as 3. When you interchanged, when you wrote this line, num1 is equals to num2, so value from num2 was fetched and that replaced the value in num1. So num1 became 3. In the next line when you are writing num2 is equals to num1, so num1, now this line has been processed, as a result of which this was erased and 3 was written. Next line, when you are writing num2 is equals to num1, value from num1 will be fetched. And what is the value in num1 now? Because earlier line changed it to 3. So here this will be replaced by value from num1, which is nothing but latest value you changed was 3. And that 3 will again be put inside it. So originally whatever was there, it will be replaced and 3 will be put again. So after these two lines, when you print SOPLN num1 and SOPLN num2, so what will be there? Both num1 and num2 are containing 3. Therefore, you saw the answer as 3. So the people who are clear with the concept of variable as the memory location, they will be able to understand why this happened. Okay, so I hope because we have already discussed, and this explanation, because why this happened here, let me know, is it just analyze this graphical representation for 10 seconds or maybe 15 seconds and then let me know ki why that statement did not work and solve our problem of interchanging. Okay, and instead showed the same values in both. Just analyze for 15 seconds and let me know. Okay. Is the thing clear why that did not change? Okay. Okay, another 5 minutes and I'll leave. Don't worry, I won't stretch. Okay, fine. So all of you are clear, it seems. Good. So now we'll see how to solve the problem. I'll give a very small example and then you will understand. Okay, example not from programming but in general. Let's say all of you must at some point of time must have had some cold drinks. I'll take an example wherein, let's say I have 2 glasses. One glass is here and that is containing, let's say, some cold drinks. Let's say this is some sort of orangish and yellowish. We'll call it glass A. Okay. Rather we'll call it glass A. Now, next, what we will do is, we'll take another glass. We'll take another glass. Okay, and let's say in this we have some different cold drinks. Let's say blackish or juice, whatever you want, you can accept. And let's say this is glass B containing separate juice. Now what I need is I want the content of glass B to go in glass A and content of glass A to go in glass B. Can you suggest me a way out? And we don't have to mix them. Mixing is not allowed. Just apply, think for it 10 seconds. This is the last problem for the day. Okay, so what can be done? Any ideas? Okay, take another glass, take a separate glass, good, and use it. Correct. So all of you figured out what can be done. We can take a glass C, right? Let's say we'll take a glass C. Okay, in that glass C, what we will do is, we will pour the content of glass A to C. Okay, so, and then once you have poured the content, this will be our first step. Second step will be pour the content of glass B, because then it will become empty. Okay, pour the content of glass B into glass A. Okay, and then this will become empty, glass B will become empty, and glass A, C, which was containing the content because of step 1 of glass A, okay, put it here. This will be step 3. Correct? This will solve our problem. All of you are clear with this? Let me know this. Okay, good. Excellent. See what will happen. The same concept, this you can say this example that we have done in exchanging the contents of the glasses, or you can say this logic of exchanging juices or the cold drinks from different glasses. We'll use the same concept to solve the problem. So what we will do is, we have num1, okay, one variable named as num1 containing 2. We have another variable num2 containing 3. Okay, we will take, just like additional class, we will take an extra variable for containing the intermediate results or contents, because these are also storing something, classes, so memories are also storing. So we will call it as, let's say, x. Okay, and we will label it as x, variable x. What we will do then, first step, okay, we will pour the content of num1 into x. So x will contain num1. So that means content of num1 has been poured into x. Then in that case, x will now contain, if you are pouring the content of num1, which is 2 into x, x will also contain 2. Next line, what you will do is, in num1, now at this point of time, when the first line is executed, x will contain 2, num1 will also contain 2, because num1 you have not changed, okay, and num2 will contain 3. Great. Now in next step, you will write num1 is equals to num2. So what will happen? When you are writing num2, what is num2? Num2 is having 3. Okay, so num2 is having 3. So you are saying, ki put the content of num2 in num1. So from the variable num2, value will be copied into num1. So num1 is always already having 2, but it will be overwritten by the latest value. So x we have not changed in this line. So x will remain 2. Okay. Because in num1 you are putting the content of num2, so num2 is having 3. So the earlier value will be erased and will be replaced by the new value. So new value from num2 will be poured inside it and earlier value will be lost. Now num1 will contain 3. Now in the next line, and what will be the content of num2? You have not changed it till now. So num2 is containing 3 only. Now further, what you will do is, you will write num2 is equals to x. So this way, now as of now, when third line is being executed, logically in the background, in the memory, what will game will be going on? X is containing 2, right? Num1 is containing, because you changed it in the earlier step, so num1 is latest value is 3. And now in the third statement, you are asking computer to replace the content, whatever content is there in num2 should be replaced by the content of x. So whatever is the value of x, what is the value of x? X is 2. Okay, so 2 will replace the content of num2. So num2 will have, content of num2 will be poured with the content of x. And what is the content of x? X is having 2. So whatever is the original value of num2 will be replaced and 2 will get inside it. Now once you are done, after this, you will see what was the original value when you started. Num1 was containing 2 and num2 was containing 3. After these 3 steps, num1 is containing 3 and num2 is containing 2. So your objective is achieved. Now you can simply print it on. Print SOPLN num1 and SOPLN num2. Okay. Is this concept clear? Yes, add another variable. Exactly, we did that. Okay, so is this concept clear? Let me know. I'll just execute the program and then we can leave for the day. Okay, Aishwarya, Hashmita, Maruti, Jayesh, all of you. Excellent. Yes, very good. So now we'll execute the program for the same. Okay, and what is the program? Now, see, I taught you wrong first, because until and unless you understand what is wrong, till that time you won't be in a position to understand right. I could have initially written the correct program, then you would not have got the feeling of that. Okay, so our 16th program, this approach is, will write, I'll share this wrong program also, don't worry, today I'll share everyone, all the programs, 16 programs. So this approach is incorrect. Refer to the previous, that is code 15 program for correct solution. Okay. No, not 15, 14. I intended to cover one more topic, but because we are not having time, we'll start with that topic tomorrow. Okay, so code 14. Let's say code 14. This is the correct way of exchanging two variables. So what I did, I took num1 for storing the first value, num2 for storing the second integer value. I have taken integer, you can take float and you can take decimal numbers also, that won't be a problem. And yes, I have taken hard-coded value. What you will try when you are practicing, to ask for the values from the user and then interchange the values in the variable. So here you will write int.next int and then you will add a scanner and all. Here in this case, though, you don't need a scanner. Okay. So I'll just remove these two lines. Okay. Fine. So, and the third value, why we are creating? Okay, why do we need third? As we see below, it is used for interchanging. Okay. I'll write, remember juice interchange concept. Juice glasses. Well, you can figure out. Change concept. Okay. So that you can, while revising the program, you can understand. So I have taken 3, num1 I have taken 2, num2 I have taken 20. I have printed before interchanging. So num1 will show 10, num2 will show 20. Then this will of course not work. Okay. So that's why I have written in multi-line comment, just for you to recall. So what actually, these lines will be comment, so this will be ignored. Okay, now we will start here. So I am making x, third variable, as num1, num1 as num2, and num2 as the content of x, just using the analogy of using the third glass for interchanging the contents of two glasses of separate juices. Okay, and then when you are printing, after interchanging, you will get the interchanged value as expected. Okay, I'll simply run the program and will show you. Okay. That's 14. So you can see, before interchanging, num1 was containing 10, num2 was containing 20. After interchanging, num1 is containing 20 and num2 is containing 10. I hope this is clear for to all. Of course, let me know here if this program was clear. If that is clear, we'll wrap it for the day. Wrap it up for the day. Okay, Aishwarya, Aryansh, Smrita, Shriya. Okay, good. Seems you all are comfortable with this. Okay, so now see, a bit was left. I intended to cover this also, 2 topics, but won't proceed further. Escape sequences and indentation. Very small topic. So we'll start with these topics in the next class. I'll just mark it off here. Okay. to be continued in next class. Okay, fine. I'll share the topic, and most probably this coming Saturday or Sunday we'll have one test. So be prepared. I'll be sharing the programs today itself. Okay. Okay, then fine. I'll just close the recordings.